Passing the torch over. Thank you again for coming on this today.
You're very welcome. I'm really glad to be talking to the Upper State Department Association. I'll tell you, it's pretty cool is that my wife kind of laughed at me. So last night I was pouring the drinks and I gave her a glass and I went, that logo looks so familiar. Upper State must have stolen it. She went, Kirk, we won these at AOD last year with, you won those. That's from the association. I went, oh, that's why their logo's on these 4 glasses that I have in the house now. So you guys are in my house permanently with that really cool logo. I love it. I think it's great. So I guess I'm not very smart either, so I didn't realize that I'd got that from you guys. So today's class, or we'll call it a webinar conversation, is business during crisis. And it's been going on since week 1 of COVID-19 hitting, because everyone kind of went into paranoia of what are we going to do now? And so a lot of people reached out to me and asked me if I'd try to put something together. And really all at the beginning, all I could really do was what we were doing in our company. And then I had so many members across the association or our council with National Suppliers Council ask me, well, what can we do? And I really had a lot of great conversations with executives, and that's kind of where this came from. And it's kind of grown as it's gone through, as we've all gone through COVID-19 together. And so I'm looking forward to hearing even more from everyone here on this call with their questions and comments. And it's just going to help grow and understand that the questions and comments you bring up are going to bring it when I'm speaking again tomorrow and a couple next week. It's just going to continue to help everybody because we're all learning from each other. There's a lot of really smart, intelligent people on this call. They're going to have some great ideas, and you're going to be able to throw them out, and I'll be able to take that and pass that along to help other people, and that's really what we're here for. So we can go to the next slide. And I wanted to thank you guys, and once again, go back to that. What a cool logo. And I don't know when you guys did that, but I love that logo. So the palm tree and the moon are on 4 of my glasses now, and that's all it had. In the future, when you do those glasses again, you have to put the USAA on there because I didn't realize that it was you. So,
I think that those glasses were from, I think they were the swag item that AOD handed out. So I think it was like, did they have like the NAA AOD symbol on it? So I think that was their swag item because it was in Greenville. So they threw up the palm tree on it. So we didn't physically make those, but definitely a good reminder of our association. So
yeah, very, very cool. All right, next slide. And this next slide is really just kind of what we're going to go through. We just kind of went through the introduction. We're going to talk about business during the crisis. We're going to talk a little bit about leadership. We're going to talk about my ideas of optimism versus hope, when to call on properties, which you guys have been in the industry. We all kind of know some of that stuff, but a little bit of that's changed. And as everything starts to reopen, it's going to change some more, and we've got to be able to out. And then the other is understanding. I'm going to give you guys some updates on some things that are kind of going around the country, and some of you may already know it. If you don't, it may be new information to you, and we can discuss that. All right, next. All right, so one of the things that I talk about is that a crisis, and we've never had anything like this, even maybe the housing crisis or even 9/11, everything got back to normal much faster than it has during this. So in my lifetime, and that's a long lifetime, this is a first. And so I'll say crisis, is never going to leave us the same. And I think this is a great time for us to make a positive influence on people and remember that this is that opportunity to make a positive influence on your business. The other thing I talk about is so many people start freaking out, and I get on calls with people and I hear them just panicking. And I go, don't try to control things you can't control. It will drive you crazy. If there's something in your business or inside of your company or something's going on with your association that isn't your responsibility or something you can control, then stop trying to do it. And I think we all need to remember that, because I think we all have a tendency to start jumping in, and remember that everybody has a role. Stay in your role and responsibility. Let other people worry about theirs, and it won't drive you as crazy. The big one for me is the true leaders will rise during times like these. And I hope that some of you have already seen that inside of your company, and maybe you've seen it in you. And I hope that you have, because for me, a leader has nothing to do with a title. Just because a person is listed as your boss does not make them a leader. I always say if someone has to remind people all the time that they're the boss, they're probably not the boss. It's those people who rise up during this time that everyone knows they can depend on and are always going to be there for them, are going to be what we consider leaders. So I always say the title doesn't mean anything to me. And some people shut down during times like this. Andrew and I were talking about this prior, and we were talking about how people shut down and they see this as this long vacation. And then you're going to have others that don't. They're going to dig in and say, how can I be better? How can I make my company better? How can my company be better? How can I be better for my clients? How can I be better for my friends and family? Those are leaders. Those are the people that you want to be around, that don't just sit back and relax, but they always seem relaxed when you're talking to them, like things don't really get to them. And they don't seem to panic during times like this. So I'm going to tell you, this is a great time, in my opinion, is to kind of review your company goals of what you had set. It's a hard time to achieve those goals right now, but to really look into those and maybe revise them and come up with some new goals, look at your numbers and say, what can I do to still be able to achieve certain things during this time? The other, I think, is important if you're a leader of your company or you happen to be responsible for some people in your company, is to build hope. I think it's very important that we're all staying positive, building hope with everybody, building security, and encouraging your team. And I'll give you a real quick security that was really important to me when this first happened. By about day 2 of the shutdown, or it wasn't even the shutdown, it was right around NAA Advocate in March, is I sat down and I went, what are we going to do? So the first thing I did was, what is the break even of our company to survive if we didn't bring in a single dollar until the end of May? And that's what we had to do. So I sat down with our CFO and I said, I need to know that. Where are we at? And do we have enough in reserves to make it if we didn't sell anything else? And once I knew some numbers and I had some comfort of where we were at, I immediately got the whole team together and I said, I need you all to understand there will be no layoffs. We're not laying off a single person. Your salary is intact. I don't care what happens. We're going to take care of that. We're going to continue to pay your insurance and the insurance for your family. I need you all to know that. And why I felt that that was important is that team, this team, our team, was the reason that we're where we're at right now. And when this is all said and done, however long at that point, here we are 6-8 weeks later, did I think it was going to be this long? Absolutely not. But I needed them to be comfortable and safe and understand that I needed them, because there's going to come the time when we're going to reopen and things are going to get back to normal. And I've got to have those people back. I don't want to lay them off and then hope maybe they come back, because then someone steals this incredible person from me. And my team is not just, they're not employees. This is family. And we're going to do what we have to take care of them. Now, we've been very blessed that during this time, business has been pretty good for us. So we haven't had to dig in our reserves, but I was absolutely prepared to do that. And so I think that we have to remember the best thing we can do for our team is to give security to them and encourage them, because that's going to keep them at home right now, working and continuing to be great at what they're great at. But if people feel like they're about to get laid off, what is everybody doing? Catching up on their Netflix and drinking margaritas at 10 o'clock in the morning. If I'm getting fired in a week, what do I care? So we really wanted to make sure that we did that. Another one is I'm having a lot of calls with my team. I wouldn't say a lot because my wife's company has way too many. So let's just talk about my company. We're having calls multiple times a week to keep in touch with each other and keep engaged. We have a happy hour we do every Wednesday, which they're required to have an alcoholic beverage in their hand, and they have to be outside when we have that call. It's also themed, and it's been pretty crazy to see the Halloween costumes coming out and how people are dressing. But it just makes it a little bit more lighthearted and not so business. But what I've learned by having all those calls is all of us is smarter than one of us. It's not about me making these decisions to take us to this point. It's about all of us making these decisions together. It's like the Knights of the Round Table, and I want to get everybody together. Let's have input. Let's make some notes. And by the time we're done, we're going to decide this together. It's not going to be, hey, this is what I think. What do you guys think? Because I don't want them to just go, well, if Kirk said it, that's what we need to do. It's important to me that we're all in this decision making, especially during this time, and we've been very good at that. The last is just to be a good person. I always say that I can't help you with that. That was your mom and dad's responsibility. But I hope that you are a good person. If you are, I think it's important during this time that we're checking in on our clients. It's really hard to try to sell them something. You know, now it's getting a little easier than it was, say, 6 weeks ago, but just check in on them. And if they try to talk business, just stop them and just say, I was just checking in on you to see how you're doing. I really wasn't calling you about business. If you want to talk about that, we can do that. But I really just want to know how you're doing. That's what good people do. And remember, any of you were around during the housing crisis back in 2008, 2009, there was some bad things that happened during that time on how suppliers acted, in my opinion, and putting lien on properties and all these things that were happening. And I've just got to make sure that we don't do that. It's important that we support our partners, which are the property management companies, during this time, because they're all freaking out right now and we don't have their jobs. The one thing I would not want to be right now is a property manager. The hats that they already wear and the more they're wearing now, it just can't get any worse than that right now. So it's important for us to be good partners with them during this time. Try to treat them right. I know they're all probably asking you for discounts and everything else, and we'll address that later. But just, I think it's important to be a good person. Next. There it is. This one is pretty self-explanatory. You got to make a decision. Are you going to moan or are you going to lead? And I'm sure all of you are thinking right now of who are those people you've been talking to that all they seem to do is moan, and were you one of them, or were you one of those that lead? Because you can't do both. You're either leading and you're pushing forward, or you're sitting around griping, complaining, and moaning. And so I choose to lead because moaning irritates me. So that's me. Next. This is a big one right here. People first. Sure, we've all heard that. I mean, how many times have you? I got to put people first. Really important to put people first. But what does putting people first really mean? When you're serving someone, which means, say, maybe someone on your team. Let's say you're in sales and you reach out to another salesperson, and hopefully you're not in a company that creates competition internally. I see a lot of companies where the salespeople are literally competing against each other, and it's not healthy. This is a great time to reach out to someone else on your team and serve them for a change and say, what can I do to help you? And you can't go into it expecting something in return. It's just to go serve them. Same thing for your clients, same thing for your friends. It's time for us to serve them, lift them up. What can we do? Because if you get in those, how many of you got on a call with somebody and it's just dropping the bomb on you? I mean, of all this is just going on, because that's when I look at them and say, please turn your TV off and stop watching the news for at least a day. And I'm sure you'll feel a lot better, because if you watch CNN or whichever you choose to watch, there's nothing but bad. Every once in a while they'll throw something good, but I mean, it's the gloom and doom. So I would tell you to avoid that. The other is support, which I talked about earlier, was calling someone up and just ask them if there's anything you can do for them, even if it has nothing to do with what your service or product supplies to them, just to see if you can help them. Maybe you can go get a case of water and take it to them, but see what you can do. And the last one, which sometimes makes people uncomfortable when I talk about it, which is just love. You know, I have kids and wife and friends, and love is a big deal to me. You know, you can't treat people like sponges and just gather data from them and then just throw them to the curb. There's no love there, and you're never going to get love back. And remember that the people on your team, they're not your competitor. So show some love for them and see if you can help a friend out. And then the one last thing, if you'll flip real back, yeah, right there. We have to remember, and I'm sure that all of you are doing this, is becoming better during this crisis. What are we doing to become a better person? What am I doing to become a better employee? What am I doing to be a better leader or owner of the company? That's what we got to have. The goal is to become a better during this crisis. Next. This one right here is big to me because I kept hearing the word when this all started, and I'm sure you all heard, got to be optimistic. Be optimistic. It's very important to be optimistic. And I don't know why. I don't know how you guys felt about it, but it just wasn't jiving with me. I was going, optimistic just doesn't feel right. And I kept thinking about it. And then I realized the issue that I had with optimism is that's believing that things are going to get better. And that just wasn't working for me. I just didn't realize that that's what it was. And so I started thinking about hope, because hope means we can make it better. It means you're doing something about it. Optimistic is just maybe it'll happen. So I would say, forget the word optimism right now and be hopeful. But the hopeful means that you're doing something about it to make it better. Next. This one, when to call. I'm sure prior to this, we all know a couple of things. As you'll see on here, we know avoid week 1 and the last week of the month because everybody's collecting rent, right? We want to stay out of the properties, leave them alone. That's a busy time for them. At least I hope that you all know that. If you've been a supplier for any period of time, you'll notice that there's the person who blocks you as soon as you walk in. Manager's busy, or you make the phone call and the gatekeeper's keeping you from talking to the manager. That's their job. So let's make sure that, as I skip down there, that avoid the first and last week of the month. Right now, especially, because if they are not collecting the rent, which is a very hard thing to do for them right now, then all of us are in trouble. Because everything starts and begins with, is rent being collected or not? That's the only way that any of us are going to continue to be able to do service or supply our product to them. But remember, when you're making decisions on what you're going to do, is to know your values. It's very, very important to know your values before you make any decisions. And I had someone ask me, so Kirk, what does that mean? And I went, man, we got a lot of troubles if I have to help you with understanding your own values. But think about who you are as a person and what your company is about before you make any decisions right now. And remember that these property management companies and these managers and regional managers, they're your friend. And if they're not, then you need to make them your friend. But treat them as a friend during this time, because if any of you have talked to them over the last couple of weeks, it's just chaotic for them right now. Also, I think it's important to understand their situation. And the only way you're going to understand their situation is to ask them. And just say, tell me what's going on with you so I can understand, because I want to make sure that I'm not getting in the wrong place with you. I want to be able to help when I can help, but I also want to know when to leave you alone. And so just ask them, and I'll tell you, they've got a lot they're going to tell you. And maybe in that call, you may be able to turn some things around with some love and some positivity and make their day, because I'm sure they're not getting a lot of that. So this would be a great time to do that. And talking to property management executives all over the country, I can tell you through NAA and all the calls I've done with them, I'm hearing from the executives of companies to kind of leave the properties alone, even the regional managers at times, and really deal with an asset manager or a vice president and above. If you're trying to get a decision made, try to reach out to them and above, because they're expecting this. So try to keep it at that point. And we talked about the first and last week, but the other is to create a do not call list. If you're talking to someone, ask them those questions. Say, should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this? You tell me what I can do to help you. And if they say, I'd prefer you to leave us alone right now until the end of May, then honor that. Make that note and make sure that your company knows to not call them. I'm not sure how your company's broke down. Are you the person that makes all the phone calls? Are you the communicator? Or do you guys have an internal sales team that's getting a lot of pressure right now to make these phone calls? If that person tells you, I want you to leave my properties alone until the end of May, please make sure that your entire company knows that, because the worst thing you can do is not honor their wishes. And there's going to be some that are going to tell you, because right now this is the month. Right now the rent they're collecting is the month that they're all concerned about. They weren't as concerned about last month. We're going to talk about that in a second. This month is crucial. So let's move to the next slide. The others I want to talk about is understanding, and we're talking basically about your team being able to allow flexibility. And it looks like most of your companies probably have allowed some flexibility. If you weren't working from home, they are allowing you to work from home now. They're allowing you a ton of flexibility on to do your job, so that's really important. The other is communicate intentionally, and I made myself a note here because I had the word communicate intentionally, and someone emailed me and said, Kirk, what does communicate intentionally mean? So I said, I've got to make sure I talk about that. Communicating intentionally means that you're sending a message purposely. Does that make sense? At least I hope it does, because everybody's not able to comment. It's rather than being unintentional. I think unintentional is when you're talking to someone, and I'm sure you've had this conversation with their tone of voice, how their tone of voice is, or how they're acting towards you. Whatever kind of behavior they're having, or maybe how they're standing when they're talking to you. You don't want that. You want to communicate intentionally, meaning that you are sending a message of exactly what needs to happen or what you need from them. This is the time to be very direct with people. Don't hide anything now. Communicate intentionally. Encourage balance in people's lives, meaning that if I'm having a conversation with one of my team and I'm starting to feel like there's a little bit of stress and maybe they're getting a little wound up, I'll figure out how to lighten it up, make a joke, or get them to relax. Or sometimes I'll go, you know what, I've decided I think you need to take the rest of the day off, and they'll laugh at me. And I go, no, I really want you to. I want you to go do something else right now. I need you to get your mind off of this because I need you back full force tomorrow. And I think sometimes we just need to tell someone, because we're all, getting cabin fever right now, and we're sitting here every day and we're sitting in front of our computers. I was talking to one of my team members, it was like 7:30, and she's still texting me and asking me questions, and I didn't know what to say. I go, why are you still working? There comes a time where you just have to stop. Everything can wait till tomorrow. Tomorrow's still you're gonna wake up tomorrow and still have a ton of things to do. So stop and work on it tomorrow, and try to schedule yourself better tomorrow. So I don't want people working 7:30, 8:30, 9:30 at night. If it requires my team to cook for their kids and then put them to bed and then go sit at their laptop and work for another hour, 2 hours, then I'm doing something wrong. I want my team to stop, and I want them to enjoy their family, and I don't want them to have to go sit down and start working again late at night. That's just not okay with me. I'm not going to do it, and I don't expect them to do it. So encourage balance, show a lot of empathy during this time. The other is to be available at any time for whatever the conversation may be, because our teams are going through so many more things other than just am I selling a product or service right now. There's so many things. Think about everyone up here, people saying that all these babies that are going to be born 9 months from now. I'm like, imagine all these divorces that are going to happen in 45 days. There's the opposite side of that too. There's a lot of love, but there's a lot of people that are stuck together right now going, I don't even like you, I don't think. I'm usually on a plane right now and I'm stuck in this house with you. So I think there's a lot of things going on right now. So just be available for people and listen to them. And then lead authentically, which to me is really just getting back to the basics. Being willing to adjust to whatever is happening and going on is really, really important, because it's going to continue to happen, especially over these next 90 days. We're going to all have to make a lot of adjustments to our clients and to our own companies, and you got to be willing to do that. But at the end of the day, I'm going to say it again, you got to stay true to your values. Stay true to who you are, no matter what. Next. A couple of industry updates. If you guys didn't know, last month they collected, at the time when I put this together, 88 to 92. The final number was 93% of rent was collected nationwide last month. And that's actually pretty strong. On a call I was on last week, it went from not being very hopeful to being hopeful. It looks like this month maybe won't be as bad. There's a lot of money coming from the government. So I'm glad to see a lot of property management companies making modifications to help people, whether that be, hey, your salary or your unemployment or whatever you're getting now is 75% of what you normally get. We're going to put you at 75% on your rent until this is over, and then we'll figure out how to supplement that other part back, which I think is a smart move, and it makes it a little easier for people. The other is some are floating a month and then making the lease term longer. So people are doing whatever they have to adjust right now, but don't think that just because they give people a deal that somebody behind the scene, the venture capitalist group, whoever owns that property, is not freaking out. So this all going to have to all work out in the long run, but it looks like things are going really well. There was another 100 million, it hasn't been made public yet, but 100 million was put into a bucket to help people with rent. I'm not exactly sure how the government, I'm working with NAA on that right now, on how that money is going to be dispersed. I hope that it's not just send everybody a check, because what will happen, it won't be paid on rent. Somebody will go to the movies or whatever they're going to do with it. So I hope however they do it, it actually pays rent versus just putting it in someone's hands, because they probably won't pay the rent with it. And then the other thing I want to end with is, two things, is what we say, what we do, and how we treat people or clients is how we'll be remembered during this crisis. And you don't want to be that person who maybe wasn't there for your friends or your clients especially, and then 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now, they're going to remember how we all acted during this time and who was there for them. That's what they're going to remember. And that's the people they're going to continue to do business with, because remember, budget season's coming, whether we like that or not. And it's going to be on top of, you guys were talking about, it's May and it was literally March. Seems like yesterday. Well, guess what? September's going to be here very shortly, and they're all going to be doing budgets, and those budgets are going to be tight for next year. And they're going to be looking at who was there for us during the crisis, because you're going to go to the top of the list. It's the ones who weren't there for them that might get taken off the list. And I know a lot of companies are going to say, well, we got to do what we got to do to take care of our company. Completely understand that. But it doesn't mean that we have to not be nice to them. We can still treat them with dignity and respect that they deserve. So just make sure that you're doing that. The last is a good time for education. If you haven't had your CAS or you've not taken Supplier Success, it's a great time right now with your association to get this done. You can get it done very inexpensively. If you're an NSC member, you can get it even cheaper right now. So there's some huge, huge discounts for NSC members. So, hey, we're already at home. If you got some team members that could use some education, this is a great time to talk with your association and get those things done. I want to wrap up with, guys, I really am honored that I got the opportunity to speak with all of you. I look forward to some questions. I know some have already been sent in, and we'll be addressing those in just a second. But now it's a time to quick little talk about your own association and what you can do to be more involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirk, so much. Along with education, I will say the CAS, USAA, we are going to be hosting a CAS at our association in September. So we've sent out a few save the dates for that. I think it's every week in September, maybe like every Wednesday or something. So just be on the lookout for that. If you don't take it online, you will be getting emails about that shortly. Just some things to maximize your USAA membership right now. Kirk talked about it, you know, engaging with members, doing a little check-in. We did a town hall meeting a couple weeks ago, and one of the members said that, you know, the property managers, she's been having Zoom calls with them, you know, just checking in, and they've been pretty receptive of, you know, having those Zoom calls. So, you know, if you have a good group of clients or customers, and just checking in with them, saying like, hey, can I take 10 minutes of your day just to see how you're doing, you know, showing some love towards them via Zoom. It does sound like a lot of the property managers have been really receptive of that. Making sure your information is in the member directory. I sent out a video probably the first week that we were staying at home, you know, to make sure that you know how to set up your members to get your information in the member directory, setting up your areas of expertise. If you don't know how to do that, I have added a video at the end of this slideshow to show you how that is done. Once we all get back to being able to attend events and classes at the association, definitely be present. I did make an announcement at the beginning, and if you weren't in here, our first actual event back will be a mix and mingle, and it is June 9th, and it's going to be at the Innovation Apartment Homes, and from 6 to 8, and we're doing like a welcome back bash. Hopefully, you know, all goes as planned, and we'll be able to still host that, and it would be awesome to see you all there in attendance, just to, you know, say hey and be able to network with all you. And we do have two sponsors for that, Sherwin-Williams and THS National. Like we said, developing partnerships, join a committee. We are still having committee meetings with USAA, and they are all virtual. So if you are wanting to, you know, hop on some calls, definitely email me, Andrea@upperstate.org, and I can send you a list of our committees. We are still planning events, and a lot of events are going to the end of the year now. So we're very, very busy at the association now from June till December, and we need all the help we can get with, you know, planning these events, having volunteers. So if you're wanting to hop on a committee, it's really a good time to do so because there's a lot of opportunities right now. And then last but not least, getting in front of a class by sponsorship. We are still hosting classes virtually, and if you all are wanting to hop on a call, one of the classes for sponsorship, you can do that. But also, like I said, a lot of events coming up, a lot of education classes once we open the doors to USAA again, and definitely getting in front when there is opportunity. Kirk, do you want to go ahead and open up questions? And then for those that haven't set up their member directory, I can push the next slide after. So, you know, the people that have set up their areas of expertise, they don't have to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 questions were already sent in, and you guys are, if you have a question, you want to talk about something, just go in the chat room and type it in, and then we'll open it up. So if you want to, there's only 18 of us, you can just unmute yourself, we'll be fine. But first came from Elizabeth at Liberty Group, and by the way, similar name and company. So love Liberty Group. Ken Bohan is a dear friend of mine, so I'm glad to see a question come from the Liberty Group. Two questions. What are some of the things that I've found success with during this time to better serve or to be a better resource for our clients? That one I think is pretty easy. I think that communication we talked about is don't go in trying to sell. Just what can I do to help you? And I know, Elizabeth, you're in the, you guys do recruiting or staffing and things like that. So this is probably, it's either really busy for you or really dead. I've noticed watching social media, there's a lot of people looking for good help, but it seems that they're not sure what they want. I don't see a lot of it happening at the regional level and above, but I definitely believe the property level, you're probably a great resource for them. So, you know, sometimes it's good, even though we think they know what we do, I think they have a tendency sometimes to forget. Let them know, remind them what you do. And if you are in the PPE business and you have access to that, this is a great time. I'll tell you, a lot of associations, not throwing this out at Andrea in Upper State, but it would be a great time to put something on your webpage to direct people to your suppliers. This is a great time because I don't think that property management people utilize the supplier directory at their associations as much as they should. But right now, things are hitting the fan and they're not getting phone calls and people aren't coming by and they're not getting pounded with everybody trying to sell them something. So they're all sitting there going, well, who the hell do I call for this? That's what that directory is for. So it'd be a great time to put something on the main page of a link of some sort. Say, don't forget your suppliers. They're here for you. Something that they click immediately and it takes them to the directory. That's just because I'm a supplier and it's my responsibility to figure out how we get the suppliers more contact. That would be something I would think. The other question was, what are 3 things that I've done with my company to lead as people? And I've talked a couple about those things now. What recommendations do I have both in my company and within the industry that we should be implementing in our daily work life? I think I talked about a lot of those things. I think is to lead, don't moan, get rid of all the negativity that you've got around you. When you're talking to your clients and your fellow suppliers, just don't talk about negative things. Just stay positive, only talk about positive things, and positive will start to happen. You know, my wife is Angie Downey, who is, if you don't know her, I'm sorry, you should, because she's a wonderful, wonderful person and an icon in this industry. And when I met her, she's a very karma person. And so in these 8 years that we've been together, I've learned a lot more about karma than I think I ever realized, was that you keep positive around you and you keep thinking positive and talking positive, you'll see all those positive people start migrating around you. If you keep talking about negative and all that, that's all you bring to you is negativity. And I choose for those people to be elsewhere. And I have no problems letting them know they can take their negative and they can go sit in the corner over there and not talk to me because I don't want to hear about it. So I would say just stay positive. We're all going to get through this. And I'm already seeing that happening. And remember, suppliers are incredibly resilient, and we are the conduit for this entire industry. And I think the industry is really starting to realize that now. Maybe they didn't before. We are the conduit, because if Kimberly's sitting there and someone calls her and says, hey, do you know anybody in San Francisco? She may not know it right off the top of her head, but I bet you she can make a couple phone calls with somebody who does. And next thing you know, she's got somebody connected in San Francisco. Other people don't have that luxury. We all do. And so that's what you got to remember. Talk about what you're very good at and what you can really help them with. And sometimes it may not be about your product or service. Any other questions? Let's look and see. No, you guys are a quiet group. Nobody wants to chime in. No one's got anything they want to throw in?
I just
Just
realized.
means you covered everything.
Right.
That really was awesome. Thank you so much.
Very good session, Kirk. Thank you.
You're very welcome, and thanks for your question, Elizabeth. Those two questions or three questions you had are being asked a lot right now. And I believe probably you're a pretty bright lady. I'm sure as soon as you sent those questions in, you started thinking about them yourself. You probably came up with your own answers too. So I think some of these, we may overthink our thoughts. And if we just back up a little bit and relax and be a good person, we're probably going to be able to answer a lot of our own questions of how we're going to get through this. And you know what? I just want to come out on the other side and not have any regrets of anything I did during this time. I just want to be good to people and make them laugh and make them smile. And if that means that I've got a friend of mine who's a property manager that I know likes tequila, well, I'm going to go buy him a bottle of tequila and I'm going to come by the property and just drop it off, give him a wave, and I'm just going to walk out the door. Enjoy that. Have a good day. You know, maybe that's what we do.
Just real quick, I had a conversation with one of my regional, she's a client friend at this point, and she said that she really appreciates the suppliers that are not going in the direction of being a news report. So no updates on the coronavirus, no updates on, we're in North Carolina, Kirk, so no updates on Roy Cooper or any governors or CNN or Fox. She just doesn't want that to be the conversation. She does want the conversation to lend itself to to lighter, to funnier, little, what's happening, I saw a meme the other day that had a woman's van, and she said, come to find out my teachers or my kids' teachers were all lying. They're not a joy to teach. And those little things that can kind of bring a smile, a smirk, something that's a little bit lighter. She said that she's really appreciating it. So stay away from the seriousness right now. It's in everybody's face, and they're fully aware of what's going on.
Yeah, you bring that up, a really good point. It's came up, as I say, keep politics and your conspiracy theories out of the conversations when you're talking to people right now. Have that in your house, but don't bring it out there how you're feeling. This isn't your time to vent and tell everybody how you feel about what's really going on. And another one that came up was exactly what you just said. So this one property manager, when I was regional, was on a call and got a call from a property manager where a supplier had been at one property and that property had said some things. And they went down and visited another property and was telling that property, which two different property management companies were telling them about something that they had heard. Of course, they immediately called and I went, what are you doing? You don't do that. It's not who told you you're supposed to just relay this information through everybody now? So yeah, absolutely. We've got to be real careful. And that's not just during this time, that's just in general as suppliers. As salespeople, which we don't call ourselves, we call them strategic relationship people, because I don't want them to think about sales, is that we all think we need to be in the know. And I will tell you, not being in the know is a good thing. Sometimes it's good to not have the answer. Sometimes even if you have it, sometimes just stop and don't give it. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to be that person. Sometimes it's better to bring someone else into the conversation. Nobody wants to be around the person who has all the answers, because the odds are, if they have all the answers, half of them are false. So I don't want to be around that person. So we as people in sales have to be real careful about, like you just said, what information, Kimberly, are we relaying? And it needs to be about what I can do for you. That's it. I'm here for you, and not talk about anything. That's really hard for us in sales, but we'll get better at it. But a great comment. It really brings up a lot of good points. Anybody else?
Hey, Kirk. It's Ken Miller with Buyers Access. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Doing well. I'm sorry I couldn't join video-wise today. Plus, you wouldn't want to see me anyway. I'm one of these guys who haven't been to the barber shop in a while, so who wants to see that? But happy to be on the call. What Buyers Access does is we're part of the supply chain, obviously, and We work with about 50 different suppliers in our space. And you talked earlier about what to say, what to outreach. And so I've been coaching my team on just being nurturers. What can we do to help? How can we help you? How can our team, both the back office as well as the sales team, assist our prospects or even our clients in some of the things that they're looking for today? And of course, we know most of everybody's looking for PPE, hand sanitizer, et cetera. And we've got lots of calls for that. But we've also been working with others on alternative suppliers, because a lot of folks had been engaged with just one particular supplier. They couldn't get things from them. We've been able to assist in getting folks additional supplier resources, some things that they might not have thought of before. So our whole campaign over the last 6 or 8 weeks has been nurturing, and even our email campaigns that we send out are all related around how we can help. So it's good to hear that you're in favor of that as well, and you're seeing yourself as your organization as well as some of the others in the supplier council doing the same. So kudos there, but I wanted to share with the group about what we're doing as well.
Yeah, and you have a great company, by the way. I know your company well, so thanks for everything that you do. And you bring up a lot of really good points there that I hope everybody heard. The one thing that people bring up, and this occurred, how do I sell during this time? And what my warning that I give to people is, if you weren't paying attention to the relationships prior to COVID-19, sure as hell is not going to happen now. So your focus needed to be on those relationships. So I would say this is a great time to, as you said, nurture, rekindle some of those relationships. Maybe those people that a lot of us get on our routes and we get really busy and we don't visit as much. This is a great time to send something. What we did is, is everybody on my team now has it where they're sending out 25 handwritten cards every single week. And we've been doing that since week 1 of COVID. And so it's just a handwritten, just checking in, and they're mailing them out to their clients. And it doesn't mean just their contact person. It may be, hey, I looked on here and saw that, because we work with a lot of leasing consultants, and if they saw something special, they sent something directly to them. And that's a lot of handwritten. And I'll be honest with you, I'm old and my hand starts cramping up on me after a while. But I will tell you, the response that you get back when someone opens that up is much more than you're ever going to get from an email, because it means that you cared about them. So I would say this is, if you don't have great relationships, it's a great time to either rekindle those relationships or keep nurturing, as you just said, to nurture those relationships. Because I think that that's what we're supposed to be doing. That's what we should do. And your company and you as a person will benefit from that when this is all done. Great points. I don't see any more questions, but I see a lot of thank yous. Thank you, guys. Honestly, I mean, you're all on the front line. We're all suppliers. We're brothers and sisters together, and you're all out there working your tails off right now, and doing everything you can to make our industry great. If you're part of the National Suppliers Council as a member, I appreciate you. If you're not, I still appreciate you. And thanks for being a great member to the Upper State Apartment Association, and thanks for supporting Mike Holmes, our chairman for the NAA, who is a dear friend of mine, and being such a wonderful association. And I really want to thank you all personally for really doing a bang-up job at AOD. I tell you, I've been to a lot of them, and I don't think I've ever felt so welcome as I was. And having those events that we had there, just really, you guys are a really top-notch group, and a lot of love there in that association, and it's really cool to see. So I'm sure you're surviving this a lot better than others. I see a lot of them battling with each other, but just coming there and seeing you in action, let us know what you're all about. So thank you very much for that. And thanks for supporting Mike Holmes. He's good people.
We love him as well. Thank you for your kudos.
You're very, very welcome. And remember, you guys are in my cabinet now, permanent logo. I've got you guys in my cabinet now.
And
It's
now
nice seeing all of you. Yes, what's that?